Hey guys, what's going on? I got a new review for you today on Chaos Walking. This is directed by Doug Liman and it stars Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. Tom Holland lives in a world where no women exist and there is a foggy kind of mist that circles around all the men's heads, which is called the noise, which allows everybody to see everybody's thoughts and they can imagine things. Like there was a snake that was imagined once in the movie, and he realizes that there is a survivor from the shipwreck, and it happens to be a woman, Daisy Ridley, who is the first woman he's ever seen since his mom gave birth to him many years ago, and he had nobody in the village has seen a woman since. Tom Holland then realizes some shady things in the past revolving around his village, and then he has to take Viola, who is Daisy Ridley's character, to a nearby ship to send a distress signal to alert others about the dark past on this island. Some notes that you should know about this movie is that it was originally shot in 2017, and then they had some test screenings, and then 2 years later they had to do reshoots. Now, when you hear of a movie taking extensive reshoots on a project, it is not for the better reason. Most of the time when a movie has to take longer reshoots, it means that it's just god awful or something went completely wrong. And that's how I feel about Chaos Walking. To start off with everything, I actually kind of enjoy the premise a little bit, whereas all the men, they have this fog around their head, the noise, you could see everything that somebody's thinking of, and, it's done well, but I mean, there is a lot left to be desired with that, and that's the main theme about this movie, is that there's so much in this movie that you wish they would have done more with. There's so many things that are just left on loose ends. There's so many plot points that you just go, it ended there, or it's not going anywhere outside of that. It's a really huge mess. The story doesn't even flow very well either. Like when you watch the movie, you see it all happening, but it never truly feels like it's cohesive. Like nothing flows between each other. Nothing really, it's not like a cause and effect like most movies would, or at least they don't parallel with each other. For example, the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, we see Peter Parker and what he does throughout his day-to-day in his early life. We see Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, and we see what he does in his day-to-day life. We find out the origins of Spider-Man. We find out the origins of the Green Goblin. They finally meet up in their first battle. They split apart. We find out more about their day-to-day life and other plans, and then so on and so forth. That is a good way to stretch out a movie and keep both sides of the story connected, and keeping everybody interested and understanding what's happening on all the other perspectives of the world. Chaos Walking does not attempt that well at all. There's just so many scenes where it's like Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, Todd and Viola, they just walk around and they just don't really talk to each other all that much outside of Todd's mist going off about some stuff between Daisy Ridley and how can I trust her, or I kind of like her, or this, that, whatever. And it doesn't help that Daisy Ridley doesn't talk a lot for the first portion of the movie, which really hurt the chemistry that I think both of them could have had. Now, I'm not saying that these actors are terrible. They were fine in what they were given, but we've also seen them in better roles than this before. And having one of them not really talk all that much, and having them kind of not interact well with each other for the majority of the movie really hurts their chemistry together. And on top of the characters, there's so many missed opportunities as far as the villains, or as far as who we're supposed to focus on. There's 3 different things that you have to focus on in this movie. And surprisingly, this is another Spider-Man connection. What was the bigger problem with Spider-Man 3? It had so much stuff and it couldn't balance it out, and they were all fighting for the screen time, and they were all fighting for attention, and nothing really got as big of a spotlight as it should if it were a standalone for certain parts of the movie. Chaos Walking brings a lot of elements to the movie, but doesn't explore them enough. And then it leads to an ending that is very anticlimactic that I just walked out of the theater going, that was it? That was the big finale? Like, I don't understand how that got through in post and was like, oh yeah, that's satisfying. Because I sat there as a moviegoer and I'm like, I don't understand how we got here. Like, it was so sluggishly paced and nothing was happening for the majority of the movie, you know? The effects are fine and everything like that, but I mean, the bigger thing that I noticed as soon as I watched this movie was the camera work was awful. Like, I've never really liked shaky cam, especially like in wrestling. Like, WWE has a big problem with shaking the camera too much when an attack happens. And it's nauseating and it gives everybody headaches and it's just atrocious to look at. This is what Chaos Walking is doing as well. It is blatantly jarring to the point where, like, I almost walked out. I was like, I can't watch that. Like, that's just so, like, disgusting to look at. It reminds me a lot of when I watched The Hunger Games for the first time. I've actually never seen any of them all the way through. But there's a part in the first Hunger Games movie where the main character is walking through the woods, like on rocks and stuff like that, and I never got through it because it's so jarring. It's so unsteady, and I get the effect that they were going for in Chaos Walking. They wanted to make it nerve-wracking. They wanted to make it like, oh my god, there's all this stuff happening and we need to go right now. And I get that. But you gotta do better than that. Also, piping in soundtrack for suspense really didn't help anything. Like, they would just pipe in and then you're like, am I supposed to feel tension? Am I not supposed to feel tension? Like, what's going on here? Like, I didn't... The bigger problem with this is just it didn't invoke any emotion out of me. I didn't care. It was hard to watch at times. Like, a couple of things are saved because of Tom Holland and the, mist goes on in his head, how he thinks about Viola and, like, what their personal relationship could be. Some of those scenes are saved by that, but it does not save the whole movie. If anything, that's the one glimmer of hope that you can find in the movie the entire time, and I just found this movie very disappointing in all aspects. I think Chaos Walking deserves 1 star. It's really, there was so much potential here. There really was. The actors, the plot, like, there was so much that they could have done, and it just kind of fell flat on its ass. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.